I walked through the front door that evening, my feet aching from a long shift at the office, and all I wanted was to change into something comfortable and unwind. But as I headed to the bedroom, something felt off right away. The closet door was wide open, and when I looked inside, my heart dropped. Everything was gone. My dresses, blouses, jeans, even my favorite scarves that I'd collected over the years. Panic set in as I spun around, searching the room. "What the hell?" I muttered to myself, my voice echoing in the empty space. Welcome to Martha's Stories. I share new life stories here every day, and I'd really appreciate it if you hit subscribe and liked my video. Drop a comment down below telling me where you're watching from and what time it is for you, right? Now, I read every single comment, and it helps me to know I'm not alone in this. I rushed downstairs to the kitchen where my mother-in-law, Evelyn, was humming while stirring something on the stove. She was always there, in my space, since we'd taken her in 5 years ago after my father-in-law passed away from a sudden heart attack. My husband, Mark, had insisted it was the right thing to do. She had nowhere else to go, and the house was big enough. But from day one, it felt like she was trying to take over. "Evelyn, have you seen my clothes?" I asked, trying to keep my tone steady, though my hands were shaking. She turned slowly, wiping her hands on a dish towel, her face twisting into that fake innocent smile she always wore. "Oh, Sarah, you're home early. I thought I'd do you a favor and clean out that messy closet of yours. Those old rags were just taking up space. I put them in trash bags out by the curb, figured the garbage truck would handle it tomorrow." I stared at her, my blood boiling. Old rags? Those were my things, pieces I'd bought with my own money, some with sentimental value from trips Mark and I took before she moved in. "You threw them out without asking me? Evelyn, that's my personal stuff." She shrugged, not even bothering to look apologetic. "Well, someone had to do it. This house was getting cluttered, and honestly, you could use an update." "Mark agrees with me. He said your wardrobe looks dated." Her words hit like a slap, and I could feel the humiliation creeping in. The way she always made me feel small in my own home. I stepped outside to check, and sure enough, there they were. 3 black trash bags bulging with my belongings, sitting on the curb like discarded junk. I knelt down and ripped one open, pulling out a silk blouse I'd worn on our anniversary last year. It was wrinkled, but salvageable. Tears stung my eyes as I thought about how this wasn't the first time. Ever since Evelyn arrived, she'd been nitpicking everything. "That vase doesn't match the decor," she'd say. Or, "Why do you cook like that? My son deserves better." And Mark would just nod to keep the peace, leaving me to swallow my pride. Back inside, I confronted her again, holding up the blouse as evidence. "This isn't clutter, Evelyn. This is my life, my choices. You had no right." She crossed her arms, her eyes narrowing. "Your life? This is my son's house too, and I'm just helping out. If you don't like it, maybe you should organize better." I felt a surge of anger mixed with that deep-seated disrespect she'd been piling on for years. The betrayal of her invading my space without a second thought. The powerlessness that left me violated and trembling. But as I stood there, clutching my clothes, a secret burned in my mind. The one thing she didn't know. The house title was in my name alone. It had been my late father's gift, an inheritance he'd set up quietly before he died 3 years ago. After seeing how Evelyn treated me during her visits, he'd wanted to protect me. "Keep it under wraps, Sarah," he'd said on his deathbed. "Use it if you ever need leverage." I hadn't told Mark or anyone, figuring it would cause unnecessary drama. But now, with my things in the trash, dread twisted in my gut alongside a spark of determination. This violation had gone too far, and I couldn't let it slide. I stood there in the kitchen, still holding that wrinkled silk blouse, my chest tight with the weight of what Evelyn had done. The air felt heavier now, laced with the steam from the pot she was stirring. Her back turned to me like my words didn't even register. I couldn't just walk away, not after she'd violated my space so blatantly. "Evelyn, this isn't over," I said, my voice sharper than before. "You dismissed my things like they were nothing, but they're part of me. How can you stand there and act like throwing them out was some kind of help?" She turned back around, her smug laugh cutting through the tension like a knife. "Help? That's exactly what it was, Sarah. That closet was a disaster, full of outdated clutter. I did what needed doing since you never get around to it. Stop being so overdramatic. It's not like I burned them." Overdramatic? Her words fueled the fire inside me, the humiliation surging as I realized she truly saw no wrong in invading my privacy. I set the blouse down on the counter, my hands balling into fists at my sides. It's not clutter, Evelyn. It's my wardrobe, my choices. You've been living here 5 years ever since your husband passed, and I've tried to make room for you. But this is you crossing every boundary. Like when you rearranged my entire kitchen last year without a word, or tossed out my recipe books because they didn't match your style. She shrugged again, picking up the spoon and stirring with deliberate slowness, as if to show she wasn't bothered. Boundaries? This house needs order, and I'm the one keeping it together while you're off at work. Those recipe books were falling apart anyway. Mark appreciates a clean space. He grew up that way. If you can't handle a little tidying, maybe you should think about why that is. The disrespect hit me like a wave, making me feel small and powerless in the face of her casual denial, as though my feelings were the real inconvenience. I opened my mouth to fire back, but the front door clicked open just then, and Mark's footsteps echoed down the hall. "Hey everyone, I'm home," he called out, his voice tired but cheerful as he entered the kitchen. Setting his bag on a chair, he paused, sensing the thick air between us. "Whoa, what's with the tension? And Sarah, why do you look so upset?" Evelyn beat me to it, her tone shifting to that sweet, innocent one she saved for him. "Oh, honey, it's nothing big. I cleaned out Sarah's closet today, got rid of some old rags that were piling up. She's taking it a bit hard, but I was only trying to organize things around here." I turned to Mark, desperate for him to see my side, my voice pleading now. "Mark, it's not nothing." She threw away my clothes without asking me. My favorite pieces, things with memories attached. Tell her that's not okay, it's our home, and she can't just decide what's trash. He glanced between us, rubbing his temples like he always did when caught in the middle, his expression softening toward her. "Mom, come on, you should have asked first. That's Sarah's stuff. But babe, she probably meant well. We've talked about decluttering the house before. Maybe it's not as bad as it seems. Can't we just pull the bags back in and sort through them?" Meant well? His words landed like a betrayal, minimizing what she'd done and making me feel even more isolated, like my pain was overblown. I stared at him, hurt twisting in my gut. "Sort through them? Mark, this isn't about decluttering. It's about respect. She's been overstepping for years, making changes without consulting me. And you always brush it off as her helping out, but it makes me feel like I don't matter here." He stepped closer, putting a hand on my arm, his voice gentle but firm. "Sarah, calm down. Mom's been through a lot since Dad died. She needs to feel useful in the house. It's just clothes, right? We can replace what got ruined. Let's not turn this into a big fight tonight." "Just clothes," the phrase echoed, deepening the violation I felt as Evelyn nodded along behind him, her faint smile saying she'd won this round. "Exactly, Mark. Dinner's almost ready. Why don't we all sit down and eat? No sense letting good food go cold over this." I hesitated, the powerlessness washing over me. I didn't want to escalate into a full-blown argument right then, not when I was already exhausted and outnumbered. So I nodded stiffly and we moved to the table, the silence awkward as we served ourselves. As I sat there poking at my plate, I noticed my throw pillows were gone from the couch in the next room, and a new picture frame hung on the wall, one that definitely wasn't mine. Those tiny shifts unsettled me more, like silent proof of her growing grip. The dread built inside, whispering that this was only the start, and something deeper was at play here. After that awkward dinner, I couldn't sit still any longer with the tension hanging in the air like a storm cloud. Mark had gone off to watch TV in the living room, flipping channels to avoid any more talk, while Evelyn cleared the table with that satisfied hum of hers, acting like everything was normal. I excused myself quietly, saying I needed some air, and slipped out the front door to those trash bags still sitting by the curb. The streetlights cast long shadows over them, and the cool evening breeze did little to calm the knot in my stomach. I knelt down on the damp grass, my knees pressing into the ground, and started unzipping the first bag, determined to salvage whatever I could from this mess she'd made. As I pulled out item after item, my work blouses, casual jeans, even a dress from our last vacation, tears blurred my vision again, but I wiped them away quickly. Each piece felt like a piece of me she'd tried to erase, and the violation stung deeper now, mixed with the betrayal from Mark's half-hearted defense. I stacked the salvageable clothes in a pile beside me, folding them carefully to keep my hands busy. How could she do this? I whispered to myself, shaking my head as I dug deeper into the bag. That's when my fingers brushed against something stiff and papery, not fabric at all. I pulled it out, a crumpled receipt from the local furniture store, dated just that morning. I smoothed it out under the streetlight, my eyes scanning the details: a new armchair and side table, over $500, charged to our joint credit card, but the name on it was Evelyn's, not mine or Mark's. My heart skipped a beat as I read the delivery address, our house, of course. Why would she buy furniture on our account without saying a word? It hit me then, like a cold wave. This wasn't just about my clothes. She was redecorating, making changes to claim more space, maybe even pushing me out bit by bit. I stuffed the receipt into my pocket, my mind racing with suspicion now, turning the humiliation into something sharper, more focused. Back inside, I avoided the kitchen where Evelyn was finishing up and headed straight to the bedroom, closing the door softly behind me. Mark called out from downstairs. "Sarah, you okay? Come watch the game with me." I paused, hand on the doorknob, forcing my voice to sound steady. "I'm fine, Mark. Just tired from work. I'll be down in a bit." It was a lie. I needed space to think, to process this new clue that made her actions feel even more calculated. Once alone, I sat on the bed, pulling out my phone with trembling fingers. I couldn't keep this bottled up. I needed someone who would listen without minimizing it. I dialed Lisa, my best friend since college, the one person who knew all the Evelyn stories over the years. She picked up on the second ring, her voice warm and concerned right away. "Sarah? Hey, what's up? You sound off." I took a deep breath, glancing at the door to make sure it was shut. "Lisa, you won't believe what happened today. I came home and my closet was empty. Evelyn threw out all my clothes, stuffed them in trash bags like garbage. She called them old rags, said she was doing me a favor." There was a pause on her end, then a sharp intake of breath. "She did what?" "That's insane, Sarah. Throwing out your personal stuff without asking? That's not helping. That's straight up invasion. Has she done crap like this before?" I nodded, even though she couldn't see me, leaning back against the headboard as the words spilled out. "Yeah, all the time, rearranging things, criticizing everything. But this feels bigger. And Mark? He just said she meant well, that it's just clothes, like my feelings don't count." Then, while I was salvaging what I could from the bags, I found this receipt. She's buying new furniture on our joint account in her name, delivery to the house. What if she's planning to take over more, like redecorate and make it hers? Lisa's tone shifted to serious, the kind she got when giving advice. "Whoa, that sounds shady. If she's using your money without telling you, that's not right. You need to look into this more. Check the financial records, see if there's a pattern. Maybe statements from the bank or credit card app. Don't let her get away with pushing you around like this." Her words lit a spark in me, turning the dread into quiet determination. Like I finally had a direction. I lowered my voice in case anyone was listening outside. "You're right. I can't just let it go. But Mark doesn't see it. He thinks she's just being helpful. What if this escalates?" "Then you protect yourself," Lisa said firmly. "Start with the basics. Log into the accounts tonight, see what else she's done, and document everything, the receipt, photos of the trash bags. You've put up with her for 5 years. It's time to draw the line. Call me if you need help." I hung up after a few more minutes of venting, feeling a bit steadier now. The receipt burned in my pocket as I opened my laptop quietly on the bed, but I didn't dive in yet. The house was too quiet and Mark might walk in any second. Instead, I snapped a quick photo of the receipt with my phone, saving it in a hidden folder. As I did, I noticed another small change. My nightstand drawer was slightly ajar, like someone had rummaged through it recently. Had Evelyn been in here too? The thought sent a chill down my spine, escalating my suspicion. Downstairs, I heard Evelyn laughing at something on TV with Mark, their voices carrying up the stairs like nothing had happened. It made my blood boil, but I pushed it down, focusing on the plan forming in my mind. This wasn't just about the clothes anymore. It was about reclaiming what was mine. I slipped the phone back into my pocket and stood up, ready to face them again, but with a new resolve humming beneath the surface. Whatever she was up to, I was going to uncover it, starting with those financial records. Later that night, after the house had quieted down and Mark had fallen asleep on the couch, with the TV still flickering, I crept into the home office we shared at the end of the hallway. The room was dim, lit only by the desk lamp I switched on, casting shadows over the filing cabinets and the computer screen that hummed to life as I sat down. My heart raced as I logged into our online banking portal, using the password Mark and I had set up years ago, my fingers trembling on the keys from the mix of anger and nerves bubbling inside me. The receipt from the trash bag had pushed me over the edge, and now I needed to see if this was a one-off or something more sinister. like Evelyn siphoning money for her own plans. As the account loaded, I scrolled through the recent transactions, my eyes scanning the list of debits and credits that popped up in neat rows. There were the usual bills, mortgage, utilities, groceries, but then I spotted them. Several transfers over the past few months from our joint savings to an account I didn't recognize, each labeled vaguely as home improvements or maintenance. The amounts weren't huge at first, 50 here, 100 there, but they added up to over $2,000, and the recipient was listed under Evelyn's name. I leaned back in the chair, my breath catching as the pieces started connecting. This wasn't just about new furniture. She was using our money like it was hers, maybe to redo the house in her image and solidify her hold. I printed out a few statements quietly, the printer whirring softly in the silence, and tucked them into a folder I hid in my desk drawer under some old papers. The betrayal deepened, making my stomach twist with that familiar powerlessness, but now mixed with a growing resolve to uncover the full extent. How long had this been going on, I wondered, clicking through older months, finding more of the same transfers dating back almost a year, right around the time she'd started complaining more about the house's outdated look. The next morning, I woke up early, before the sun fully rose, and made coffee in the kitchen while the house was still quiet. Evelyn came down soon after, her slippers shuffling on the tile floor as she poured herself a cup, eyeing me with that usual mix of suspicion and superiority. "You're up early, Sarah," she said, stirring in her sugar slowly. "Couldn't sleep after all that fuss yesterday?" I set my mug down, forcing a neutral tone even as my pulse quickened from what I'd found. "Actually, Evelyn, I was thinking about the new furniture you bought. The receipt was in one of the trash bags with my clothes. Care to explain why you're using our joint account for that without telling us?" She paused mid-stir, her eyes narrowing as she set the spoon aside with a clink. "What receipt? You went digging through the trash? That's a bit paranoid. Don't you think? I bought a few things to make this place nicer. It's not like I'm stealing. Mark knows I handle some of the shopping." "Handle some shopping?" Her casual denial ignited the disrespect I'd been swallowing for years, but I held back, not wanting to tip my hand yet. "Mark knows. He didn't mention it to me. And those transfers from our savings, labeled home improvements, that's our money, Evelyn. Money we've saved for emergencies, not for you to spend on whatever you want." She crossed her arms, leaning against the counter with a huff. "Transfers? Now you're snooping in the accounts too? That's low, Sarah. Those were for little fixes around here. Paint, curtains, things to keep the house up. If you were more involved instead of always at work, you'd see it's necessary. You're making this into something it's not." The accusation of paranoia stung, deepening the humiliation as she turned it around on me, like I was the one overstepping. I stepped closer, keeping my voice low so Mark wouldn't hear from upstairs. "Necessary without asking? This house doesn't need your fixes, Evelyn. You've been here 5 years, and I've let a lot slide. But this feels like you're trying to take over, bit by bit." She laughed lightly, waving me off as she turned to grab a piece of toast from the counter. "Take over? Please, Sarah, I'm family, helping out where I can. If you're so worried, talk to Mark. He'll tell you it's fine. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have errands to run." As she brushed past me toward the door, grabbing her purse, the tension coiled tighter in my chest, her dismissal fueling my determination. I watched her go, the front door clicking shut behind her, and then headed upstairs to get ready for work, my mind churning over the bank statements hidden away. Mark came down a bit later, still in his pajamas, rubbing sleep from his eyes as he poured coffee. "Morning, babe. You seem tense. Everything okay after last night?" I hesitated, stirring my own coffee, deciding how much to share without escalating too soon. "Not really, Mark. I found a receipt in the trash bags for furniture Evelyn bought on our joint card. And when I asked her about it, she just brushed it off, said you knew." He sighed, setting his mug down and leaning on the counter. "The furniture? Yeah, she mentioned wanting to update the guest room. I figured it was no big deal, small amount, right? Mom's just trying to make herself useful." "No big deal?" His words hit like another layer of betrayal, minimizing her actions again and leaving me feeling isolated in our own marriage. I shook my head, my voice rising a bit. "Small amount? Mark, there are transfers from our savings too, thousands over months, labeled as improvements, but she didn't consult us. This isn't helping, it's controlling." He ran a hand through his hair, his expression turning frustrated. "Transfers? Sarah, are you checking the accounts now? Come on, that's paranoid. Mom wouldn't do anything shady, she's family. Maybe she forgot to mention it. Can't you let this go? You're overreacting to the clothes thing, and now this. Overreacting, the word echoed Evelyn's accusation, amplifying the powerlessness as he pressured me to back down. I crossed my arms, staring at him. Let it go? Mark, this is our money, our home. She's been overstepping for years, and you always defend her. What if she's planning more, like redoing the whole place to suit herself? He stepped closer, his tone softening but firm. Babe, she's my mom. After Dad died, she's had it rough. Apologize for accusing her, and we can sort the money later. We don't need this stress. Apologize? The idea burned, but I swallowed it, nodding vaguely to end the conversation. Fine, Mark, I'll think about it. Oh, but inside, the dread grew, whispering that their alliance was stronger than I thought. And if I didn't dig further, I'd lose more than just control over the finances. As I left for work, I noticed another small change. A new vase on the entry table that wasn't there before, probably from her errands. It unsettled me, a quiet sign of her creeping influence. The tensions were rising, and I knew I couldn't hold back forever, whatever her motives. They ran deeper, and I had to expose them before it was too late. That afternoon at work, I couldn't shake the unease from those bank transfers and Evelyn's casual brush-off from the morning. The numbers haunting me like ghosts in the back of my mind. I stared at my computer screen, the reports blurring as I replayed her words, feeling the weight of her control pressing down harder with each passing hour. I needed solid ground, something more than my suspicions. So I reached out to my old college friend Rachel, now a lawyer who handled family and property disputes. We'd drifted a bit over the years, but she was sharp and trustworthy, the kind of person who cut through the noise. I sent her a quick text asking for a call, and she replied almost immediately, saying to ring her during my lunch break. I stepped out to the parking lot, finding a secluded spot by my car where the hum of traffic drowned out any chance of being. Overheard and dialed her number, my fingers gripping the phone tighter than necessary. Rachel answered with her no-nonsense tone, jumping right in after a quick hello. Sarah, spill it. Your text said urgent. What's the deal with your mother-in-law? I leaned against the car door, glancing around before laying it all out. Rachel, Evelyn's been living with us for 5 years since her husband died, and it's turned into a nightmare. She threw out my clothes yesterday like they were trash, and now I've found she's been pulling money from our joint savings for home improvements without a word, thousands over the past year. She made a sound like she was jotting notes, her voice steady and probing. Unauthorized transfers? That's red flag territory, could qualify as financial manipulation. Whose names are on the accounts? And the house, tell me about that. I paused, lowering my voice even though no one was near. The joint account is Mark's and mine, but the house is titled solely in my name. My dad arranged it quietly in his will 3 years ago, after noticing how Evelyn treated me during visits. He wanted to safeguard me, and I kept it secret to avoid stirring up trouble with Mark or her. Does that change things? Rachel let out a thoughtful hum, and I could picture her leaning back in her chair, weighing the angles. It changes everything, Sarah. Sole ownership means you hold all the cards on the property. She has no legal claim, no matter how long she's stayed. You could evict her if it comes to that, and those transfers might be clawed back as misuse. But heads up, this could blow up your family dynamic. If she cries elder abuse or something, it gets messy. Potential court battles, strained marriage, relatives picking sides. Document it all, statements, receipts, her behaviors. Tread carefully before you drop the title bomb. Her words landed heavy, a mix of empowerment surging through me like a lifeline, knowing I had real leverage to push back against Evelyn's grip, but also a sharp fear twisting in my gut about what it might cost. What if revealing the title shattered my marriage? Turned Mark against me for good? I'd built this life with him, loved him despite his blind spots, and the thought of losing that over her manipulations made my chest ache. Fallout like divorce? Mark already defends her constantly. If I use this, he might see me as the villain. Rachel's tone softened a notch, but stayed firm. Possibly, yeah. Courts consider long-term living arrangements, but your title trumps that. Start by confronting with the evidence you've got, see how he reacts. If he sides with her, that's telling. You've got power here, Sarah. Don't let fear stop you from using it. Call if you need formal steps. We wrapped up and I hung up, standing there in the parking lot as the wind picked up, staring at my phone like it held a grenade. The legal edge Rachel gave me felt like armor, bolstering my resolve to stand my ground. But the hesitation gnawed at me. the weight of deciding whether to confront Mark head on, risking everything we'd built. I pocketed the phone and headed back inside, the rest of my shift dragging as I processed it all alone, turning over her warnings in my head, the empowerment clashing with the dread of what revealing my secret might unleash. By evening, when I pulled into the driveway, the house lights were on, and extra cars parked outside told me something was up. Voices carrying through the open window as I approached the door. I walked in to find Evelyn in full hostess mode, the living room filled with Mark's sister Karen, her husband, and a couple of cousins, all lounging with drinks and plates of appetizers she'd clearly whipped up. Evelyn turned with that polished smile, gesturing me over like nothing was amiss. "Sarah, perfect timing. I thought a little family catch-up would be nice after such a busy week. Come sit, we're sharing stories." I forced a nod, my stomach nodding as I took a seat next to Karen, who squeezed my arm warmly. "Hey, sis-in-law. Mom was just saying how much she's been helping around here. You look tired, rough day?" Before I could respond, Evelyn passed me a glass of wine, her eyes gleaming with that subtle edge. "Oh, Sarah's always swamped at work, leaving the house to me. I tidied her closet the other day, got rid of some clutter to freshen things up. But you know how it is. Not everyone appreciates the effort." The room chuckled lightly and Karen leaned in. "Mom's the queen of organization. Growing up, our place was spotless. You're lucky she's pitching in, Sarah. Saves you time, right?" "Lucky?" The word grated, Evelyn's manipulation unfolding right there as she steered the narrative, painting herself as the helpful martyr and me as the unappreciative outsider. I set the glass down, my voice steady but edged. "Pitching in is fine, Evelyn. But throwing out my personal clothes without asking? That's not help. It's crossing lines. And using our joint account for new furniture without discussion? We need to talk about that." The laughter faded, a hush falling over the group as Evelyn sighed deeply, placing a hand on her chest like I'd wounded her. "Oh dear, here we go again. I was just trying to make this home better for all of us, after losing my husband and moving in. I need to feel useful, but Sarah sees it as some plot. It's exhausting, really, being accused when I'm only helping." Karen reached over, rubbing Evelyn's shoulder. "Mom, don't get upset. We know your heart's in the right place. Sarah, she's elderly. Cut her some slack. If it's about a few bucks for furniture, it's probably no big deal. Family helps family, right?" The cousins nodded along, one adding, "Yeah, my mom does the same at our place, means well." Mark, who'd been quiet by the door, finally spoke up, his tone placating. "Sarah, let's not do this in front of everyone. Mom didn't mean harm, she's been through a lot. We can sort the money privately." Their collective support for her hit like a wall, deepening my isolation as Evelyn dabbed at her eyes, the victim act sealing the deal, leaving me the outlier in a room full of sympathetic faces. The emotional stakes pressed down, my marriage feeling like it hung by a thread. If I pushed harder with Rachel's leverage, would Mark choose her over me? I excused myself to the kitchen under the pretense of getting water, my hands shaking as I gripped the sink, noticing a new vase on the counter, another quiet mark of her encroachment. Later, after the relatives trickled out and the house settled, I slipped into the bathroom to brush my teeth, scrolling through old emails on my phone to distract myself from the lingering hurt. That's when I spotted it, an old message from Evelyn to Mark, accidentally copied to our shared account from 6 months back, titled House Plans. It read, "Mark, we need to reclaim the space once Sarah's dealt with. She's not pulling her weight. Let's think about the future." The words chilled me, solidifying her schemes as I screenshot it quickly, the evidence hardening my resolve, even as the fear of confronting him with it loomed larger, the decision weighing like a stone in my chest. A couple of days passed since that tense family gathering, and I carried the screenshot of Evelyn's email like a secret talisman in my phone, glancing at it during quiet moments at work to fuel my simmering anger and remind myself her schemes were real, not just my imagination running wild. The words, "reclaim the space once Sarah's dealt with," echoed in my head, making every glance from her at home feel like a veiled threat. But I held back from showing Mark right away, needing more proof to make him see without room for denial. I threw myself into my job, letting the routine numb the hurt. But when I walked through the door that Friday after a grueling shift, the house was eerily silent. No clatter from the kitchen or murmur from the TV. Just an empty hallway greeting me as I set down my keys. "Mark, Evelyn?" I called out, my voice bouncing off the walls, but only stillness answered. So I headed upstairs to unwind, figuring they'd stepped out for groceries or something mundane. As I reached the landing, low voices drifted from Evelyn's guest room door, left slightly ajar, and I froze when I recognized Karen's tone mixed with Evelyn's. My sister-in-law's car must have been parked around back since I hadn't spotted it in the drive. I didn't mean to listen in at first, just paused to tie my shoe, but Evelyn's words hooked me hard. "Karen, honey, it's only a matter of time before this house is ours proper. Once Sarah's out of the picture, Mark will come around. I've been chipping away, making her look unstable with all her accusations. She thinks she's got leverage, but she'll crack soon enough." My stomach dropped, the shock rooting me in place as I edged closer, careful not to breathe too loud, my hand gripping the railing until my knuckles whitened. Karen's reply came softer, laced with uncertainty. "Mom, that sounds harsh. Sarah's family too. What if Mark sticks with her? You sure pushing like this is smart?" Evelyn's laugh cut through, sharp and confident, like she was savoring a victory already won. "Smart? It's necessary, dear. Ever since I moved in 5 years ago after your dad passed, she's treated me like an intruder, questioning every little thing I do to help. But with the money I've shifted for improvements, the place is shaping up my way. Mark defends me because he knows I'm right. She's the one causing rifts. Once the marriage folds under the strain, we'll have peace here. Just us family." The revelation slammed into me, her boasting laying bare the depth of her plot, turning my lingering doubts into a fierce urgency that made my pulse thunder in my ears. I slipped away quietly before they noticed, retreating to our bedroom and shutting the door with a soft click, my mind spinning as I dug out the house title deed from its hiding spot under the mattress, the document my dad had secured 3 years ago to shield me from this exact poison. I grabbed my purse and keys, heading out without a note, driving to the nearest bank branch where my safe deposit box waited. The road a blur as her words replayed, once Sarah's out of the picture, fueling a resolve that overrode the fear churning inside. At the bank, I signed the log with steady hands, the clerk leading me to the vault where I pulled the box and used their copier to duplicate the title. The pages crisp and official, proving the house was mine alone, a silent powerhouse against her assumptions. I sealed the original back in and pocketed the copies, feeling a shift in the air as I left, like I'd just locked in my counterstrike, but the weight of it pressed on me. What if unleashing this tore Mark and me apart for good? On the way home, Rachel's earlier warnings echoed, the empowerment from her legal insights clashing with the dread of family fallout. But I dialed her anyway, needing to anchor myself as the car idled at a light. "Rachel, it's Sarah. I just overheard Evelyn bragging to Karen about getting the house once my marriage crumbles," I said, my voice tight as I merged back into traffic. "She's admitting to chipping away at me, using the money shifts to set it up. Combined with that email, it's damning." She responded quickly, her tone alert and strategic. "That's gold, Sarah. Verbal admission of intent. Note it down. Date, time, exact words, witnesses. With the financial evidence in your sole title, you could move for eviction or fraud claims. But remember, this ramps up the risks. Mark might accuse you of overreach, and she could counter with elder abuse spins to rally the family." I swallowed hard, the fear spiking as I pictured Mark's face if I revealed everything. "I know, but I can't let her win. I photocopied the title and stashed it safe. If I show him the email and tell him what I heard, will he finally see?" "Test the waters," Rachel advised, her voice a steady line in the chaos. "Present the facts calmly, gauge his reaction. If he minimizes again, that's your sign the marriage needs reevaluation too. You're not alone in this. I've got your back if it goes legal." Hanging up as I turned onto our street, I saw Karen's car pulling away, Evelyn waving from the porch with that innocent grin, like she hadn't just plotted my downfall. I parked and went inside, finding her in the kitchen chopping vegetables. Mark now home and unloading groceries from bags on the counter. He looked up with a tired smile that dropped when he caught my expression. "Babe, you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." I set my purse down, deciding this was the moment, my voice even but firm. "Not okay, Mark. I overheard your mom telling Karen she'll have the house to herself once our marriage crumbles, that she's been making me look unstable on purpose." Evelyn's knife paused mid-chop, her face flushing as she set it down with a clatter. "Overheard? You mean eavesdropped? Sarah, I was just venting to my daughter about the stress you've caused." Twisting my words again, how typical. Mark turned to her, confusion knitting his brows. "Mom, did you say that, about the marriage crumbling?" She waved it off, wiping her hands on a towel. "Not like that, son. I said things are tense, and if it keeps up, who knows? But Sarah's the one escalating, accusing me left and right since I moved in to help after your dad died. I pulled out my phone, holding up the email screenshot for emphasis. Tense? This email you sent him. Reclaim the space after Sarah's dealt with. And now, this conversation, it's all part of your plan, Evelyn. The transfers, the overstepping, pushing me out. Mark took the phone, reading it slowly, his face paling as he handed it back. Mom, this looks bad. But Sarah, maybe it's a misunderstanding. She gets emotional sometimes. She's not scheming, she's just trying to fit in. Emotional. His words ignited the argument, my frustration boiling over as I faced him. Fit in? Mark, she's admitting to undermining us. You defend her every time, but what about me? Our marriage? If you can't see this, maybe she's already winning. He raised his voice, stepping between us again. Winning? Sarah, you're the one turning family talks into conspiracies. Mom's had it rough. Give her grace. If you keep pushing, you're the one risking everything. Evelyn nodded, her eyes misting artfully. I don't want to divide you two, but Sarah's paranoia is tearing us apart. I just want harmony here. The reversal crushed me. Their tag team defense isolating me further. But the photocopies in my purse whispered of untapped power. Secrets I hinted at without unleashing. Harmony? Fine, but there are things you don't know, Mark. Things that could change it all. I turned and headed upstairs, the door shutting behind me with a thud. The midpoint shock propelling me forward. Her boasts had crossed the line. And now I'd flip the script, no matter the cost. The weekend after that explosive argument, I woke up early on Saturday. The house still wrapped in that heavy silence that followed our fights, like everyone was walking on eggshells waiting for the next crack. Mark had slept on the couch downstairs, claiming he needed space to think. But I knew it was his way of avoiding me. Avoiding the truth, staring him in the face about his mother's schemes. I sat up in bed, staring at the drawer where I'd hidden the photocopied house title and the email screenshot, my mind already turning over the plan I'd pieced together from Rachel's advice and my own growing. Fury. I couldn't just react anymore. I had to build something solid, evidence that even Mark couldn't dismiss. So I ordered a small wireless camera online the night before, the kind that looked like a plain charging block, and it arrived by midday delivery, discreetly packaged so no one would suspect. I plugged it in right away, positioning it on the bookshelf in our bedroom, angled to catch the door and my dresser drawers where I'd stashed some decoy documents, fake bank statements I'd printed with minor alterations to bait her. My heart raced as I set up the app on my phone, testing the live feed to make sure it captured clear video and audio, the little device blending right in with the clutter. This better work, I muttered to myself, adjusting the angle one last time before heading downstairs, where Evelyn was already in the kitchen, sipping her coffee and flipping through a magazine like she owned the place. She looked up as I entered, her eyes narrowing just a fraction, that smug edge still there despite the tension from Friday. "Morning, Sarah," she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness as she set the magazine down. "Sleep well? You seemed so upset last night." "Hope you're not still harping on that nonsense about me and Karen." I poured myself a cup of coffee, keeping my back to her for a moment to steady my expression, feeling the violation all over again from her overheard boasts. "Nonsense? Evelyn, you were talking about pushing me out. I heard it clear as day. If you think I'll let that slide, you're wrong." She let out a short laugh, stirring her coffee with deliberate slowness, her spoon clinking against the mug. "Heard it, or imagined it, dear. You're always so quick to accuse. Mark knows better. He told me himself you're overreacting. Maybe you need to see someone about that paranoia." The disrespect burned, her words twisting to make me the unstable one. But I swallowed it, focusing on the long game as I turned to face her. "Paranoia, we'll see about that. But for now, stay out of my things, Evelyn. The bedroom's off limits. No more helping without asking." She raised an eyebrow, crossing her arms over her chest. "Off limits? This is my son's home, too. If I see clutter, I'll tidy it. You could use the organization, honestly. Your drawers are a mess." I set my mug down harder than I meant to, the thud echoing in the quiet kitchen. "My drawers? How would you know that unless you've been snooping? Admit it, Evelyn. You've been going through my stuff, looking for whatever you think will help your little plans." She stood up, her chair scraping back, her face flushing, but her tone staying cool. "Plans? There you go again. I was just straightening up the other day, found some old papers. Nothing wrong with that in a shared house." "Shared house," the phrase grated, ignoring the title in my name, but I held back the reveal. nodding instead as if conceding. Fine, but from now on, hands off, I'll handle my own space. I left the kitchen before she could reply, heading back upstairs to check the camera app. The exchange leaving me trembling with a mix of anger and anticipation. Mark came into the bedroom a little later, his hair tousled from the couch, carrying a peace-offering mug of fresh coffee. He sat on the edge of the bed, handing it to me with a sigh. "Sarah, about last night, I didn't mean to yell. Mom's adamant it was a misunderstanding. Can we just drop this and go back to normal?" I took the coffee, setting it on the nightstand as I looked at him, the betrayal still fresh from his defense of her. "Normal? Mark, normal is her overstepping every day. I showed you the email, told you what I heard. If you won't back me, what does that say about us?" He rubbed his face, glancing away toward the window. "It says I'm stuck in the middle. She's my mom. She raised me alone after Dad died. Give her a chance to explain without jumping to conclusions. Please, for me." The plea tugged at me, but the powerlessness I'd felt for years pushed back harder, so I shook my head. "A chance? She's had 5 years of chances. I'm done waiting. If you want to ignore the signs, that's on you." He stood up, frustrated, muttering something about me being stubborn as he left the room, the door clicking shut behind him. That afternoon, while Mark was out mowing the lawn and Evelyn napped in her room, I slipped into the garage and changed the lock on my personal storage cabinet, the one where I kept important papers and keepsakes, the click of the new key giving me a small thrill of control. I tested it twice, pocketing the spare, knowing it would infuriate her if she tried to poke around again. Back inside, I reached out to our neighbors, starting with Mrs. Thompson next door, who'd always been friendly during block parties. I knocked on her door and she invited me in for tea, her living room cozy with family photos on the walls. "Sarah, what's on your mind?" she asked, pouring from a floral teapot as we sat at her kitchen table. "You look like you've got the weight of the world." I stirred my tea, choosing my words carefully. "It's about Evelyn, my mother-in-law. She's been difficult lately. Have you noticed anything? Like her bossing people around or making changes to our house?" Mrs. Thompson nodded slowly, setting her cup down. "Well, now that you mention it, yes. Last week I saw her yelling at the mailman over a package, claimed it was hers when it wasn't. And she's always out front telling the gardeners how to trim the hedges, like it's her property. Domineering, I'd say. Why do you ask?" I leaned in, my voice low. "She's been invading my privacy, taking money from our accounts. If you'd be willing to write a short statement about what you've seen, it could help me sort this out." She thought for a moment, then agreed. "Sure, Sarah, you've been good neighbors. I'll jot something down. Her behavior's rubbed a few folks the wrong way around here." I thanked her, leaving with a handwritten note detailing a couple of incidents, including one where Evelyn had snapped at another neighbor's kid for playing too close to our yard. Back home, I added it to my growing file, bank records, the receipt photo, the email screenshot, and now witness statements. I talked to one more neighbor that evening, Mr. Patel across the street, who shared similar stories of her overbearing attitude during community events. And he emailed me a quick statement, too. By Sunday morning, the camera paid off. I checked the app while sipping coffee alone in the kitchen, and there it was. Footage from overnight, time-stamped around 2 a.m., showing Evelyn creeping into our bedroom while Mark and I slept downstairs after another. Late-night talk that went nowhere. She rifled through my dresser drawers, her flashlight beam darting over papers, clearly hunting for something, her face twisted in concentration. I saved the clip, my hands shaking with vindication, the violation captured in high definition, her searching for documents that could expose her or give her leverage. Evelyn came down soon after, humming as she started breakfast, but I confronted her right away, keeping my tone casual to mask the shift in power. "Evelyn, I changed the lock on my cabinet in the garage. No more going through my things. Consider this a boundary." She froze with the frying pan in hand, her eyes flashing with irritation. "A lock? That's ridiculous, Sarah. What are you hiding? This house is for family. No secrets here." I smiled faintly, stirring my coffee. "Hiding? Like you've been hiding those transfers? Or searching my drawers at night?" "Yeah, I know about that too." Her face paled for a split second before she recovered, setting the pan down with a bang. "Searching? Don't be absurd. If I was in your room, it was to tidy up. You're imagining things again." Mark walked in then, catching the tail end, his expression weary. "What's this now? Sarah, locks? That's a bit much." I turned to him, pulling out my phone to show the footage thumbnail but not playing it yet. "Much. She's been snooping, Mark, caught on camera. Add that to the bank records and neighbor statements about her behavior. This isn't imagination, it's proof. He glanced at the phone, then at his mom, who crossed her arms defiantly. Proof? Sarah, a camera in our bedroom? That's invasive. Mom, tell me you didn't… Evelyn huffed, turning back to the stove. I didn't do anything wrong. She's setting traps now, paranoid as ever. Mark, you see what I'm dealing with? He sighed, looking between us. Sarah, this is escalating. Cameras? Statements? It feels like you're building a case against her. Can't we just talk? Talk? I echoed, the power dynamic shifting as I pocketed the phone. We've talked. Now I'm protecting what's mine. I left them there, heading to the office to compile everything into a folder, the evidence stacking up like bricks in a wall she'd soon crash into, her infuriated glare following me out the door. By Monday evening, after a weekend of cold shoulders and tense silences, I knew I couldn't drag this out any longer. The evidence I'd gathered burned a hole in my folder, demanding to be used before Evelyn twisted things further. I spent the day at work finalizing my plan, printing out the camera footage stills and organizing the bank statements, neighbor notes, and that damning email into a neat stack, each piece a nail in her coffin. When I got home, Mark was in the living room watching the news, Evelyn knitting in her chair like some innocent grandma. But I didn't waste time on small talk. I stood in the doorway, folder in hand, my voice firm as I announced, "We're having a family meeting tonight. I've invited Karen and a couple of cousins over. They'll be here in an hour. We need to clear the air once and for all." Mark looked up from the TV, remote in hand, his brow furrowing in confusion. "A meeting? Sarah, what now? Can't this wait? We've had enough drama this weekend." I shook my head, stepping into the room and setting the folder on the coffee table with a deliberate thud. "No, it can't wait, Mark. Your mom's been playing games too long, and I've got proof. If we don't address it now, it'll destroy us. Karen's on her way. She needs to hear this, too." Evelyn set her knitting down slowly, her eyes locking onto mine with that calculating stare, but her voice stayed calm, almost pitying. "Proof? Oh, Sarah, you're still on about that? Calling family over for your little show? This is getting embarrassing. Mark, tell her to stop this nonsense before she humiliates herself." He muted the TV, shifting uncomfortably on the couch as he glanced between us. "Mom's right, this sounds over the top. What proof? The camera thing? Let's talk privately first." I crossed my arms, feeling the empowerment from Rachel's earlier call steadying me, where she'd confirmed the evidence was strong enough for legal action if needed. "Privately? We've done that, Mark. You minimize it every time. Tonight, everyone sees the facts. If you care about our marriage, you'll listen." He sighed, rubbing his temples, but didn't argue further. Just nodded vaguely as Evelyn huffed and picked up her knitting again, muttering under her breath. Fine, if she wants to make a fool of herself, let her. An hour later, the living room was full, Karen and her husband on the sofa, the two cousins in armchairs, Mark next to me on the love seat, and Evelyn perched in her usual spot, arms folded like she was the judge here. I stood up, folder in hand, my heart pounding but my resolve ironclad after years of swallowing her disrespect. "Thanks for coming on short notice. This isn't easy, but it's necessary. Evelyn's been crossing lines for too long, invading my privacy, misusing our money, and plotting to push me out. I've got evidence, and it's time everyone knows." Karen leaned forward, her face skeptical but curious. "Push you out? Mom mentioned some tension, but this sounds serious, Sarah. What's going on?" I opened the folder, passing around the bank statements first, the pages rustling as they made the rounds. Start here. Unauthorized transfers from our joint savings to Evelyn's account. Over $2,000 in the last year labeled home improvements. She bought furniture without asking, using our card. That's not helping, that's theft. Evelyn snatched the paper from Karen's hand when it reached her, her eyes scanning it quickly before she tossed it back on the table. Theft? Ridiculous! Those were for the house, curtains, a new lamp, things to make it nicer. Mark knew about some of it. "You're blowing this out of proportion, Sarah. Always the victim." Mark took the statement next, his expression darkening as he read the amounts. "Mom, these transfers, you didn't mention them. Sarah's right, we should have discussed it." The room murmured, the cousins exchanging glances, and Karen chimed in, her voice hesitant. "Mom, if it's joint money, why not tell them? This looks bad." Evelyn waved it off, her voice rising a notch. "Bad? I was fixing up the place while Sarah's at work all day. If anyone's ungrateful, it's her, accusing me after I lost my husband and moved in to help this family." I didn't let her steer it, pulling out the next set. the email screenshot and the neighbor statements, handing them over one by one. Ungrateful. Look at this email you sent, Mark. Reclaim the space once Sarah's dealt with. And these notes from neighbors. They've seen your domineering side, yelling at people, acting like you own everything. Then there's this. I overheard you boasting to Karen about crumbling my marriage to get the house to yourself. Karen's eyes widened as she read the email, passing it to her husband. Mom, you sent this? It does sound off. And that conversation, I thought you were just venting, but put together. Evelyn's face flushed red, her hands clenching in her lap as she leaned forward. Venting? Exactly. I was upset after one of Sarah's rants. And overhearing? That's eavesdropping, twisting words. Those neighbors. Busybody gossip. This is a witch hunt, Mark. Tell them. Mark shifted, looking uneasy as the evidence piled up, his voice quieter now. Mom, the email is harsh, and the money. We need to explain this properly. The outrage built in the room. The cousins whispering, one saying, this is messed up if it's true. I felt the shift, the empathy turning toward me as I pulled out the camera stills last. The images clear of Evelyn rummaging through my drawers in the dead of night. Explain this then. Footage from a camera in our bedroom, she snuck in while we slept, searching my things. Invasions of privacy, all to undermine me. Evelyn exploded then, jumping to her feet, her finger jabbing at the photos. A camera? Spying on me in my own home? That's illegal. And I wasn't searching, I was looking for a missing earring. This is entrapment, Sarah. You're the one breaking laws here. The room erupted in gasps, Karen covering her mouth, and Mark stood up, his face stunned. Mom, you went into our room at night? Sarah, is this real? I nodded, meeting his eyes, the betrayal he'd ignored for so long now impossible to deny. It's real, Mark. And there's more. Something I've kept quiet to avoid this exact mess. I took a deep breath, pulling out the photocopied house title, holding it up for all to see. The house isn't ours or yours, Evelyn. It's in my name alone. My dad left it to me 3 years ago after seeing how you treated me. He set it up as protection. You threw my clothes out thinking this was your kingdom? Little did you know, it's mine. The bombshell dropped, silence blanketing the room for a heartbeat before Evelyn lunged for the paper, snatching it from my hand. Yours? This is forgery. Fake! Mark, she's lying. Your father and I helped with the down payment years ago. This can't be real. Karen grabbed it next, scanning the official stamps, her voice shocked. Mom, it looks legit. Dated 3 years back. Notarized. Sarah, why keep this secret? I took it back gently, my voice steady amid the chaos. To keep peace, but peace is over. Evelyn, you've manipulated, stolen, invaded. Now it's out. Mark stared at the title, his world unraveling as he turned to me. Sarah, all this time? Why not tell me? Before I could answer, Evelyn rounded on him, tears streaming now, her voice cracking. Son, don't believe her. Call a lawyer. This is fraud. I've given everything to this family and she's stealing it. One cousin pulled out his phone, dialing quickly. I know a guy who's a lawyer. Let's verify this right now. The call connected on speaker, and I recited the details. The lawyer friend from Rachel's network confirming over the line after a quick check of public records. Yes, the title's in Sarah's name solely, transferred via inheritance 3 years ago. Clean and legal, no disputes on file. The confirmation silenced Evelyn, her denials crumbling as she sank back into her chair, face ashen. The relatives looking at her with new eyes, outrage toward her, empathy for me. Mark stood frozen, forced to choose as the unraveling hit full force. Mom, how could you? Sarah, I didn't know, Evelyn whispered, defeated but defiant. You believe her over me? After everything? Karen touched her arm but pulled back. Mom, the evidence. It's too much. I sat down finally, the satisfaction washing over me amid the shock, knowing this reveal had turned the tide, but the family fractures were just beginning. The room hung heavy with that stunned silence after the lawyer's voice crackled over the speaker, confirming the house was mine alone, no ifs or buts about it. Evelyn sat there, her face drained of color, clutching the armrests like they were the only things keeping her from falling apart, while Mark paced a small circle behind the couch, his hands running through his hair over and over. Karen stared at the title copy in her lap, shaking her head slowly, and the cousins whispered among themselves, their eyes darting between us all like they were watching a train wreck unfold. I stood tall, folder still open on the table, feeling the weight lift off my shoulders for the first time in years, but I knew this wasn't over. Evelyn wasn't one to go down without swinging. She snapped out of it first, her voice rising sharp and desperate as she pointed at me, her finger trembling. "This is outrageous elder abuse, that's what this is. You've been harassing me, spying on me with that camera, locking me out of rooms in my own home. I'll sue you, Sarah. I'll take you to court for everything. Defamation, emotional distress, forcing me out like some criminal. Mark, call our family lawyer right now. This forgery won't hold up." Mark stopped pacing, his phone already in hand, but he hesitated, looking at me with eyes full of conflict. "Mom, calm down. The lawyer just confirmed it's real. Suing? That's extreme. We need to talk this through." Karen jumped in, her voice wavering as she handed the title back to me. "Mom, if the house is Sarah's, legally, we can't ignore that. And the bank stuff, the footage, it's not looking good. Maybe we should hear her out before threats." "Paige." Evelyn turned on her, her eyes blazing with betrayal. "Hear her out. You're my daughter. After all I've done for this family, sacrificing my life after your father died, and now you're siding with her? This is my home too. I've lived here 5 years, cooked, cleaned, given everything. She's the abuser, trapping me with cameras, accusing me of theft over a few dollars for improvements." The cousins nodded a bit at first, one saying quietly, "She's got a point. Elder abuse is serious." But I didn't let her momentum build. I pulled out the bank statements again, spreading them on the table like cards in a winning hand. "A few dollars, it's thousands, Evelyn, transferred without permission. That's not improvements, that's fraud. And the camera? It caught you red-handed, searching my drawers for documents, probably looking for this title or something to use against me. I'm not abusing you, I'm defending myself." Mark leaned over the table, scanning the statements closer this time, his face hardening as the numbers sank in. "Mom, these transfers, you said it was small stuff, but this adds up. Why didn't you ask us? Sarah's right, this could be illegal." Evelyn snatched a statement, crumpling it in her fist. "Illegal? I'll show you illegal. Calling the police on an old woman? That's what you'll do next, isn't it? Fine. Let's see what they say about your secret title and spying. You've been plotting this from the start, hiding your daddy's gift like a sneaky thief. Mark, don't let her manipulate you. She's tearing us apart." I felt the outrage bubble up, but I kept my cool, turning to the group. "Manipulate? I've put up with your invasions for years, the clothes in the trash, rearranging my life, criticizing every move. The neighbors saw your domineering ways too. Their statements back me up. If anyone's calling the police, it's me for potential fraud on those accounts." Karen's husband spoke up then, his voice steady as he looked at the footage stills. "Hold on, everyone. I'm no lawyer, but this looks like theft if the money wasn't authorized. And the title's legit. Maybe we should get the police involved to sort it, not sue each other." The room shifted, the relatives murmuring agreements, one cousin adding, "Yeah, facts are facts." "Mom, if you took the money without asking, that's not right. Sarah's got proof here." Evelyn's eyes widened, realizing the tide was turning, and she grabbed Mark's arm, pulling him close. "Son, you can't let this happen. I've been your rock, remember after Dad died? I moved in to help you, not her. If she reports me, it'll ruin me, fines, records, everything. Tell her to stop this madness." Mark pulled away gently, his shoulders slumping as he faced me, the apology written all over his face. "Sarah, I'm sorry, I should have listened sooner. The evidence, it's overwhelming. Mom, you crossed lines. We need boundaries, real ones. No more transfers, no more snooping." I nodded, feeling a rush of relief mixed with the pain of seeing him torn. But I pressed on, pulling out my phone. "Boundaries start now. I'm filing a police report for the fraud. Nothing personal, Evelyn, but you forced this. And repayment, every cent back into our account." She exploded again, standing up and pacing now, her voice cracking with fury. "Repayment? You'll bankrupt me. I don't have that kind of cash lying around. This is extortion." "Karen, back me up. Tell them it's not fair." Karen hesitated, glancing at the evidence pile, then shook her head. "Mom, it's not extortion if you took it without asking. The facts side with Sarah here. Maybe you should apologize and work out a payment plan." The other relatives nodded, one saying, "Yeah, police might help mediate. No need for court if she repays quietly." Evelyn stopped pacing, her fight deflating as she saw no allies left, sinking back into her chair with a defeated glare at me. "Fine, report me if you must. But you'll regret this. Family doesn't do this to family." Mark sat beside her, his hand on her shoulder, but his words were for me. "Sarah, let's do this right. I'll go with you to the station tomorrow. Mom, you need to move out, temporarily at least. We can find you an apartment nearby, but boundaries mean space. She jerked away from him, tears streaming now, but real this time, not the act. Move out? After 5 years? You're choosing her over me? Fine, I'll go. But don't come crying when she turns on you next. I didn't rise to it. Instead, calling Rachel quickly in the kitchen while the others talked it out, her voice calm over the line. Good move with the report. It'll document the fraud without charges if she repays. And a restraining order? If she threatens more, file for one to keep her away. Hanging up, I returned to the room, where the relatives were helping Evelyn gather her things for the night, Karen offering her couch until she found a place. Mom will help you pack tomorrow, but repay what you took, it's the right thing. Evelyn shot me a venomous look as she stood, grabbing her purse. Right thing? You'll get your money, Sarah, in installments, since that's all I can do. But this isn't over. I'll find a lawyer, contest that title somehow. Mark escorted her to Karen's car, the group dispersing with awkward goodbyes, promises to check in. When he came back inside, he pulled me into a hug, his voice muffled against my shoulder. I'm sorry, babe, I was blind. We'll set boundaries, no more interference. Let's get that police report done, and if needed, the restraining order to make sure she stays away. I hugged him back, the justice tasting bittersweet as the door shut behind the last relative. It's okay, Mark. She moves out tomorrow, repays what she stole, and we move on. But yeah, the order, if she pushes, it's there. That night, as we lay in bed, the house quieter without her presence looming, I felt the security return, knowing the counterattacks had worked. Her threats empty against the facts, relatives on our side now, and our marriage intact if bruised. Evelyn texted Mark late, reluctant but agreeing to start packing, facing the demands head on. Her empire crumbled in one evening. A week after that chaotic family meeting, Evelyn was finally out of the house. Her belongings packed into boxes and loaded into Karen's SUV under a drizzling rain that seemed fitting for the occasion. Mark and I stood on the porch, watching as she slammed the car door, her face twisted in a mix of defeat and lingering spite. Refusing to look at us as they drove off to the small apartment we'd helped rent for her a few miles away. I'd insisted on being there to oversee the move, making sure she didn't slip anything extra into her bags. And Mark had agreed without argument this time, his hand resting on my shoulder in quiet support. It's done, Sarah, he said softly as the taillights faded down the street. She's gone. We can breathe now. I turned to him, feeling the tension uncoil in my chest for the first time in what felt like forever. The house behind us suddenly feeling like ours again. Mine, really, but ours in the way that mattered. Yeah, but it's not just about her leaving. We need to fix us too, Mark. All those times you sided with her. It hurt, made me question everything. He nodded, pulling me into a hug right there on the steps, the rain pattering around us. I know, babe, I was wrong, blind to how bad it got. Seeing that evidence, hearing the lawyer confirm it all, it woke me up. No more minimizing. We're starting counseling next week, like we talked about. I want to make this right. We went inside, the door closing with a solid click that echoed through the empty halls, and I started unpacking some of my salvaged clothes from the spare room, hanging them back in the closet where they belonged. The space felt lighter without her constant presence. No more rearranged furniture or nitpicking comments floating through the air. Remember that silk blouse she trashed? I said, holding it up for Mark to see. The wrinkles ironed out now. I'm wearing it to dinner tonight, our first night alone in years. He smiled, coming over to help fold the rest, his hands brushing mine in that familiar way that reminded me why we'd built this life together. Good idea. And about the money, she wired the first installment yesterday, like she promised. The police report went through smooth. They said with repayment, no charges needed unless she skips out. I set the blouse aside, leaning against the dresser as relief washed over me, the justice finally settling in. That's a start. Rachel said the restraining order's approved too, keeps her from showing up unannounced or harassing us. If she tries any more counterattacks, like that elder abuse nonsense, we've got the evidence to shut it down. Mark paused in his folding, looking at me seriously. She won't. Karen called earlier, said Mom's settling into the apartment, but the family's keeping distance. No more surprise gatherings or siding with her stories. They saw the proof. It changed things. We finished up and headed downstairs, where I pulled out paint swatches from a drawer, spreading them on the kitchen table with a grin. Time to renovate on our terms, no more of her improvements. Now, what do you think, soft blue for the living room? Make it feel fresh, like a new beginning. He picked up a swatch, holding it against the wall, his eyes lighting up. Love it. We'll hire painters next month once the last of her stuff is cleared. And that guest room? Turn it into your home office. You deserve the space after all this." As we planned over coffee, my phone buzzed with a text from Lisa, checking in like she had every day since the blow-up. "How's the piece treating you?" It read, and I typed back quickly, "Better than ever. House is mine, marriage stronger, villain out." She replied with a string of celebrating emojis, adding, "Proud of you for standing up. Drinks soon?" I showed Mark the exchange, and he chuckled, setting his cup down. "Tell her yes. And invite Rachel, too. She's been a rock through this. Without her legal advice, who knows how it would have gone?" The evening unfolded easy, us cooking dinner together for the first time in months without interruption. Laughter filling the kitchen as we chopped vegetables and shared stories from before Evelyn's. Shadow loomed. "Remember our honeymoon in Hawaii?" Mark said, stirring the sauce with a wink. "No drama, just us. Let's plan a trip like that, reconnect properly." I nodded, plating the food and carrying it to the table, the warmth between us rebuilding step by step. "Deal. Counseling first, then vacation. We've got the savings back now, minus her dips." Later, as we sat on the couch watching a movie, my head on his shoulder, another text came in. From Karen this time. "Mom's quiet, reflecting. She's starting therapy. Admits she overstepped. Family's giving her space, but we're here for you guys too." I read it aloud to Mark, and he squeezed my hand. "See? Even they're seeing the light. No more isolation for you." The next few weeks blurred into a rhythm of renewal. We painted the walls that soft blue, rearranged furniture to our taste, and attended our first counseling session, where Mark opened up about his guilt over his dad's death and how it made him cling to his mom. "I let her control things to feel like I was honoring him," he admitted to the therapist, his voice thick. "But it hurt Sarah, and I see that now." The therapist nodded, turning to me. "And you, Sarah? How do you feel about rebuilding trust?" I took a breath, glancing at Mark, hopeful. He stepped up, helped with the police follow-up, enforced the order when Evelyn tried calling once. "The repayment's coming in steady. She's on her third installment. It feels like justice, finally." Back home after the session, we celebrated with takeout, toasting with glasses of wine on the newly decorated patio. "To us," Mark said, clinking his glass against mine, "and to your dad for that title. Smart man." I smiled, the empowerment full now, no more powerlessness shadowing my days. To him, and to boundaries that stick. Meanwhile, Evelyn's life unraveled in isolation. Karen updated us sparingly, saying she'd lost touch with most relatives after they learned the full story. Her boasts and manipulations exposed. She lived alone in that cramped apartment, repaying what she took from a part-time job at a local store. Her kingdom reduced to a one-bedroom rental with no one to control but herself. Rumors from the neighbors trickled in. She'd tried rallying them against me, but they shut her down, citing her past behavior. "Regretting it all," Karen texted one day. "Families distanced, holidays without her this year." I felt a pang of pity, but it faded quick, replaced by the satisfaction of comeuppance earned. Mark and I grew closer through counseling, our marriage fortified by the storm we'd weathered. And as I hung new curtains in the living room, ones I chose, no input from her, I knew we'd come out stronger. My legal foresight, the shield that saved us from total loss. Have you ever felt that the person who hurt you the most is the one you trusted the most? If you've ever experienced being doubted, blamed, or hurt without being able to speak out, leave a "I" comment or briefly tell your story. No one is judging you here. We're just reminding each other of one thing. The truth may come late, but it always finds a way to be revealed. And if you want more stories like this about justice turning around, remember to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next episode. On screen right now, you'll see 2 new stories I think you'll really enjoy. There are many more waiting for you on the channel, so don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss one. See you in the next story. Until then, take care of yourself and the people you love. With all my love and respect.